This is the Spiritual Bacon Podcast. My name is Casey, and this is episode 2. We were finally headed home. Now, on the ride home from the hospital, I couldn't believe how incredible nature was. The mountains, the trees, the sky, all of it. I wasn't sure why I felt this way, but it was emotional. I mean, I've always loved my mountains, as I call them, but this time, this hit so different. I was almost in tears. It felt majestic, profound, and so deeply underappreciated. And more than anything, it felt like I was connected to it, to all of it. The trees, the clouds, the earth. Not just nature, but people too. Everyone. Humanity. I could feel the connection between everything and everyone. Like we weren't separate at all. After being at home for a few weeks, I had gotten into a routine. Wake up, coffee, colostomy change, exercise, and rest. Thankfully, my family had a very tall bed, and I was able to slide on and off it without too much effort. I had 5 hernias that were not fixed yet, and the stoma, which I think was another one. The plan was to fix them when they reversed my ostomy in 6 months, so I just left them alone. I could barely get myself out of bed without help, without having someone pull me up or having one of my doggos to grab onto. It was brutal. But once I got the hang of my new routine and I was spending more time awake, it was time to start asking questions. I've always been the type of person that wanted to understand how things worked. Not everything, just the stuff I was really interested in. I took all my toys apart as a kid, all of them. And if I couldn't get it apart, I'd break it just to see what was inside. Like Sid on Toy Story. If you know, you know. I was a well-oiled machine at taking things apart. Not so much at putting them back together. Now, after being at home and getting into this routine, I figured it was a good time to start asking these questions, see if I could get a response from, whatever I had been getting responses from. And as a curious individual, I wanted to know why I was here. Like, what's my purpose? Because religion never really resonated with me. It never really hit home. Anytime I got too curious or I asked too many questions, it always came back to blind faith. You just got to believe. You just got to have faith. You got to trust. I'd never really get answers. Or they'd try and scare me, or else follow the rules or go to hell, basically, to sum it up. And this whole work to survive thing, it never moved the needle for me. I wanted to know why I was really here. Like, why are humans here too? Seriously. And then, as plain as day, again, like someone was sitting right next to me, talking into my ear, I heard to inspire people. And boom, my entire body lit up like a Christmas tree, like full body chicken skin, tingles, the whole 9 yards. That resonated with me. It's actually what I'd dreamed of doing like my entire life. When kids were talking about careers, work, money, all that in school, I was scheming, I was plotting to change the world. I just didn't know how or why. But I knew I wanted to. The problem with that was the how and the why. Anytime I tried to talk to anyone about this, any other humans, they basically said you're crazy. Like, I would tell them this stuff didn't feel right to me. What I now know is out of alignment, but people would recoil at the suggestion, was not making any sense to anyone. I always just wanted to hear someone, just one person, say that they kind of understood. To most people, I felt like money was the most important thing. Family's important, of course, but every day revolved around work. Everything everyone did revolved around work and your work schedule. Anytime I talked to any friends, hey, how you doing? It was always work. Work. Don't get me wrong, I will listen to you complain about your work, but how the hell are you actually? Fuck work. It's not you. That doesn't define you. How are you? But, everyone's working. Most of their time spent at work, so a lot of the topics and conversations were about work. After my daily routine each day, I'd sit down and play some Xbox with the gaming homies, and the second big thing that was brought to my attention, that whole nature thing and being all connected, that was brand new. But the second big thing was my perception of time. It was off. It had changed something. I felt like I had been in the hospital for months. And that's what I was telling everyone. That is genuinely what I believed. And my girlfriend at the time kept telling me that wasn't the case. It took several weeks of me hearing that from her to finally accept what I thought I knew was wrong. Nobody likes being wrong, but I was wrong. But why? What happened to my perception of time? Turns out this was a massive clue, and I started looking into why that would happen to someone, and it turns out it's a very common thing with NDEs. And at this point, I had no idea anything had happened in surgery other than what I saw, right? I had no idea it was related to anything medical. But as I read more about NDEs, I discovered something called a spiritual awakening. And after spending a little bit of time reading about that, I couldn't believe that people were going through these traumatic things and having these spiritual awakenings and had zero idea. No help, no support. We have no systems in place to assist these folks. Nobody at the hospital or doctor's office warned me. If I wasn't curious, I would have never known. And as far as I could tell, the near-death experience was kind of what triggered all this, so that's the first rabbit hole I was headed down. I wanted to sort out spirituality and the spiritual awakening things minus religion before I had to go back and get surgery again. I honestly, I was freaking out a little bit. What happened in surgery, and what was it going to happen again? Was I going to have this profound dream or vision where I see and learn and all this stuff in a few short seconds? Like, what was that? I really wanted to get a better understanding, at least have an idea of what was going on before I had to head back and potentially have my world flipped upside down on its head again. So after spending a fair bit of time down the NDE rabbit hole, it was time to tackle spirituality and the spiritual awakenings. Like I had so many questions. Like seriously, was some part of me sleeping? Like what needs awakening? Why would it be sleeping? And what exactly are we waking up to? Like what? And as smart ass as some of that might sound, I was serious. Why are we asleep? And why would people want us to sleep? This seems counterproductive to be a sleeping human, and I'll go down that rabbit hole later. I quickly learned that I needed to separate spirituality and the spiritual awakening because they were going to be big, big, big topics. It really felt like this awakening thing was going to keep unfolding whether I wanted to or not. So I figured might as well learn everything I could, and here we go. Up to this point in my life, spirituality was something you either found through church and religion, or it was considered, the evil stuff, witches and black magic and curses and all that shit you see on TV, all the stuff the church tells you. Any of that stuff religion didn't approve of was bad, right? And what I was taught in church growing up was you could have a relationship with God outside of church, but it just wouldn't be as good or as intense as if you were doing it while active in a religion. And it turns out that that's not quite the whole truth. When I come to find out that spirituality was ancient and deeply personal. It's as old as humanity itself. And the earliest known organized religions, the Sumerian, Egyptian, Vedic, however you say that, didn't show up till thousands of years after humans were already expressing spiritual behavior. So that made me wonder, what the hell happened to spirituality? If it's been around forever, why isn't it more common today? Everything I was learning about spirituality sounded incredible. Intuition, energy, healing, psychic stuff, metaphysical awareness. And yet, it's like people just didn't believe in it anymore. No one wanted to use what I thought sounded like some incredible, helpful tools. But as I dug into this stuff, here's some of what I found about spirituality. Let's see, it really started getting suppressed during the scientific revolution around 1500 to 1700. That's when rationalism, logic, and proof through evidence became a new measuring stick for truth. If you couldn't prove it in a lab with science, it was labeled as superstition. Then came the Industrial Revolution, the 1800s, the 1900s, where humans shifted focus to machines, productivity, engineering, and science. People even started to view humans as biological machines, and in that world view, there wasn't any room for the soul. Spirituality got pushed further and further out of the conversation. Materialism and capitalism started replacing soul-centered perspectives. But here's the beautiful thing. Today, it's making a comeback. More and more people are realizing they can have a direct connection to God, Source, our Creator, without needing the religious framework, without all the rules, without the fear. And honestly, if spirituality was the foundation that got us to the invention of science and all that other stuff in the first place, why wouldn't I want to explore this? And as I kept learning about intuition and spirituality, something clicked. It's like a light bulb went off. I love those moments. Growing up, I always thought my intuition was the Holy Ghost, and that it only really worked well if I was active in the church. I believed and I accessed it. It helped me outside of church, but it just wasn't as strong. But now I was learning intuition is a tool that all humans have, religious or not. And not only that, like any other tool, you can practice with it. You can get better at it. And let me tell you, my intuition has saved my ass more times than I can count over the years. So when I realized this was something that was built into all of us and that it was meant to guide us, I was all in. Once I felt a little bit better about the spirituality part and the NDE, it was time to head down the spiritual awakening rabbit hole. Like I had no idea this was even existed before any of this. So what is a spiritual awakening? A spiritual awakening is a profound shift in awareness where you suddenly see life, yourself, and reality in a completely new way. It's like waking up from a dream and realizing there's more to this world than we were taught. More than just survival, more than just routines or surface level identity. It often comes with this deep sense of connection to something greater. God, Source, the universe, or just pure love. A sudden clarity about your purpose or your path, a feeling that life is sacred and that you're part of something vast and meaningful. And here's the thing, it's not just a thought or an idea, it's an experience. Something shifts in you, and it doesn't go back to normal. For me, that moment happened during surgery. As brief as it was, it felt more real than anything I've experienced in this life. I felt connected to something infinite, something loving, and I knew without a doubt that consciousness goes on. That moment shattered the illusion that we're just bodies or brains. I woke up and I couldn't unsee it. And no, I know my initial thought was you had to die, but you don't have to die. You don't have to die to have a spiritual awakening. It can be triggered by trauma, loss, near-death experiences, psychedelic journeys, or even something like deep meditation or breath work. After an awakening, a lot of people feel this inner pull to live more authentically, to heal, to serve, to remember who they really are. But I want to be real with you. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. Spiritual awakenings can be messy. They involve shedding old beliefs, relationships, patterns, ego identities. You're going to have to sort through some shit. The cool thing is, spirituality gives us the tools to do just that. And I'm not talking about another pill, another band-aid, another distraction. I'm talking about tools that have been around for 10,000 plus years. Ancient wisdom, energy work, intuition, stillness, real tools that help you actually heal and grow. God didn't make a mistake. He didn't mess up. He didn't send us down here without the tools to do the job. We've just been taught and conditioned to think that, to forget. My own spiritual awakening has been a difficult, amazing, uncomfortable, and the most deeply rewarding journey I've ever been a part of. So once I gathered a little information and decided I was doing this, I was buying in, it really felt like this was happening whether I wanted it to or not. I figured I might as well take part. Like, let's do this. Once I got over some of the fears and said, okay, let's do this. Like, God, creator, whatever's out there, like, let's go. I'm on board. I'm ready. I'm open. That feeling, that profound moment, something I'll never forget. It's hard to explain. It's hard to explain how I felt when I made that decision to, yeah, I'm on board. Let's go. To do this. To love this. To embrace this. It was emotional. It was deep. It felt like, for the first time, I had real purpose. Not just any purpose, a purpose to help others. A purpose that's not just for me, but one that uplifts every single human being. How could I not be on board with this? How can I not be excited to invest in this every day? I mean, it's like I was the kid who couldn't sleep because of Christmas. I was just so freaking excited to have an actual purpose. Once I realized that waking up spiritually meant that I was here to love, to help, to inspire, how do you say no? That, to me, that sounds like a life worth showing up for. And I was ready to show up.